going to say Merry Christmas and all that.
Okay. I can't be arsed right now. I can't be arsed wishing people merriness.
I think you should just end it with that.
You'll share man's greatest thrill.
Many men have tried
and failed.
They tried and died.
You're dealing with the creme de la creme.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Scratchcast, the alternative pop culture podcast. I'm your host Snedds, and as always I'm here with the repentless Grant Patterson to have a bit of a chinwag about music. How are you doing, Grant?
I'm very well, thank you.
Very good. So this will be our final show of 2019, and we're picking up where we left off in episode 3 with a quick recap on Yammerer's debut EP, Reality Escape Resort, since Grant didn't listen to the whole thing last time. And we'll also be covering the latest albums from Black Midi, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Steak and Bats, not necessarily in that order. So we just go right into it with Yammerer, Reality Escape Resort. One thing I should mention is on the last episode I kept referring to the EP as Reality Escape Report. So we're both as professional as each other. So.
Yeah. So the last time I only listened to, I believe it was Airport, and the last track on the album, which is seasons 13 to 31.
Yeah.
I have to admit, it really did quite grow on me. I wasn't too sure what to make of the EP to begin with. But the first song, Airport, which is approximately 3 minutes 50 seconds long.
You get the 0.5 in there.
Yeah. It kind of opens with what I've described as a kind of desert rock, kind of psychedelia kind of feel to it. Quite enjoyed what I've described as a kind of a punchy bass line, the kind of twangy guitars that are peppered throughout the song. The second song, which is something that I hadn't had a chance to listen to last time, which is Poisonous Reptilian Colleagues and Co. Really enjoyed the opening few seconds. I felt as if the riff was something that you can't help but kind of dance along to. I found at times the lyrics were quite difficult to decipher, but I don't think that necessarily kind of distracted from the overall quality of the song. I actually remember thinking that it had almost like a kind of Brit pop feel to like the opening few beats.
Okay, fair enough.
For lack of a better word or phrase. But it a lot of the songs on this album, it kind of really bucks the trend on your kind of traditional kind of song structure. It doesn't follow verse, chorus,
Yeah.
And the song takes a completely different direction around about the kind of 2 minute mark, where we can see a lot of kind of destruct guitar type sounds, electronic chatter, and again sort of incomprehensible lyrics I couldn't really kind of decipher. And then there's that return of that kind of opening riff round about the 3:16 mark. But overall, really quite enjoyed it. The third song, I wasn't too sure how to pronounce this.
I think it's pronounced Wives Head.
Yeah. Because that's something that repeat on numerous
indeed, yeah.
Throughout it. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, the standout track for me still has to be seasons 13 to 31. I found it to be quite kind of atmospheric. Really enjoyed that kind of trebly kind of bass sound, which you can hear around about the kind of 20-second mark of the song. I found the whole thing to be quite a kind of atmospheric kind of composition. It's got a bit of an oriental feel as well. Yeah. Really enjoyed it. Maybe a bit too long. I mean, it's 9 minutes 14.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to pay attention for that length of time, but I found it held my attention for the most part. I mean, I'm not going to say too much on this because I generally said my piece on the last episode, but yeah, I think it's a really good EP and a lot of inventive things going on, chaotic, lots of cool noises going on, weird vocals, whether you can really understand what's being said or not. It's still interesting to listen to. So yeah, it's an EP I've really enjoyed, so be keen to see what comes next from Yammerer. I think I gave it a 7 on the last episode, probably a strong 7. How would you want to?
I'd probably kind of rate it 5 or 6.
Yeah.
To be honest, but I would agree with you. It'd be interesting to see what they come out with in the future.
Cool. Okay, that's good. It's good to kind of go back to that
to recap
and see what you thought of the rest of the EP. So that was Yammerer's Reality Escape Resort. So if you like the sound of that, give it a listen. the last episode, kind of intertwined with that discussion on Yammerer, Grant brought up a band called Black Midi. So after we finished recording that episode, we kind of decided that we should probably go and give their album Shlagenheim, their debut album, a listen, considering we were kind of talking them down and hadn't really given them a chance. We'd sort of skimmed over a couple of the tracks from the start of the album, and so, you know, there was a comparison we made, or at least there was a little bit of a discussion there, so we decided it was worth going back and actually giving them a chance.
Yeah.
So, do you want to, I mean, who or what are Black Midi?
So they're a band that's getting a considerable amount of traction from the likes of the NME. They're being hailed as certainly getting a lot of media attention.
There's one quote I heard somewhere, I don't know where this came from, I just remember hearing it, was the saviours of rock and roll.
Yeah, I think, did we not say that last time?
We might have done, but I can't remember.
Ourselves.
I'm not sure who I can attach that to because I couldn't find it, but I know I'd heard that somewhere. Maybe it was me, I don't know. I changed my mind.
Yeah, last time we were kind of talking about them, we kind of briefly watched a couple of their music videos, Doctor in particular, which I think has been played on Radio 1. I think it's their only song, certainly at the time, that's kind of got any kind of radio play, and we looked at a few articles where, you know, their debut album was discussed. I think they're quoted in saying that they would rather be terrible, or thought of as being terrible, as opposed to being kind of middle of the road.
Which is a fair point. Like,
yeah,
would you rather be remembered for being, or rather not be remembered than be remembered as being shit? Like, I don't know. Maybe you want to make a mark in some way, whether it's positive or negative. I'm surprised that anything from this album actually gets radio play, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, as far as I'm aware, that's the only song that's had any media play at the moment, or certainly at the time when we were kind of talking about them. I don't know if they've since went on to kind of play more of their tracks. I've heard commentators or read commentators saying that it's frustrating. They're certainly opinion dividing, and I have to admit, I was determined to hate them.
So was I, yeah.
After listening to the first track, I was determined that I was going to hate them, but I have to admit I was quite pleasantly surprised by some of the tracks on there. However, I will agree with some commentators to say I did find it frustrating listening to it at times, because there's elements in that album that are absolutely fantastic, and, you know, bits that I really, really enjoyed. However, you'd kind of be getting into the groove, you know, getting into the beat of a song, enjoying the song, and then the song would take a completely different direction, and it would kind of just I wouldn't say ruin it, because that's a bit of a strong
you
word.
kind of wish that some of these moments lasted longer or formed a song, because you could, some of the moments on here you get into a groove, and that groove itself could be a song, but they just kind of deviate away from it for a good portion of the song, and then they maybe bring it back in the end.
Maybe return, but not necessarily for all of the songs.
Yeah.
It's almost like this is a portfolio of the stuff that they can do. I think technically they're probably really good artists, you know, really good, really quite accomplished musicians. It kind of felt as if, you know, they had a canvas, you know, I'm just using it as a metaphor, they had a canvas and just chucked everything they could at it and hoping that something would stick.
Yeah,
some of it stuck, some of it's good. One track in particular that I really, really enjoyed, and in my notes I've actually said, more of this please, more of this please, Mr. Black Midi, is Near DTMI, which is the fourth song on the album. You kind of hit the ground running with that kind of, I've described them as kind of math rock, pop punk sound.
Yeah.
There was times, not necessarily in this song, but throughout the course of the album as a whole, where I was kind of reminded briefly of the likes of kind of Dan and Aykroyd. Yeah. And then you kind of get a reprieve of that kind of math rock pop punk sound, like I said, when the kind of vocals come in, and then it kind of builds. You know, there's a bit of a slow burn to about the kind of 1:30 mark, and then it just becomes what I've written. It builds to something that's truly fucking fantastic. it's just great, like where the kind of vocalist is just screaming the lyrics. I think it just kind of accumulates into something that's absolutely brilliant. I really kind of fed into that, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've highlighted that as a sort of big moment
track.
where he's just screaming these lyrics where he says, "I'm alive and I can see the water is foul and it's hard to breathe. There's lead in the water. There's lead in the water." And he just screams that with so much venom.
Great though.
And I don't really know what he's talking about, but
No,
but there's a sort of there's an industrial tone to the lyrics about building structures and things on like derelict land and things like that. So,
but then again, the song just takes a completely different direction, just at the kind of 1:49 mark, and then it's just this kind of frenzied, manic keyboard type sound.
yeah, I've just said it kind of just goes completely off the rails.
Yeah,
And there's like a totally bonkers synth line, I suppose
Yeah.
it's keyboard synth line. Yeah, and there's a lot of things like that on here where they just kind of completely change direction with no warning, and you know, with no real relation to what happened previously in the song.
I still admit the first song, I mean, I can't quite remember how long the first song is, but it's tough going. Like, you know, as I said, technically it might be quite impressive, but aesthetically, in terms of kind of your listening pleasure, it's a tough listen. I mean, there are some reprieves from that kind of grueling, kind of punishing opening riff, but it is difficult.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the song that, you know, previously made me want to turn off.
that's the song that made me previously want to turn off as well. But I kind of got
Has
into
it
the
grown on
groove
you?
of it a bit more because that opening.
Did you have a seizure?
I didn't have a seizure, no, but that opening sort of, it's like a sort of spiralling, jagged riff. I quite like the groove of that, and I'm quite disappointed when that stops and it sort of deflates with this weird breakdown, but then it comes back and it keeps coming back throughout the song, and it's maybe the vocals put me off initially. They're a bit like a sort of more demented kind of alt J.
Yeah, I think that's quite an apt comparison, because I think when we were talking about them previously, when we were trying to compare them to other artists, I think we had compared them to Alt J, and just like Alt J, when I first heard Alt J, I couldn't get into them at all. However, I remember seeing them live and absolutely fell in love with them. I just got a spare ticket from a mutual mate, McInnes,
Yeah.
and they're absolutely fantastic.
So I mean, Black Midi may be similar, and there may be a band that your appreciation might go upwards if you see them live.
I think so. I think there's a lot of things about this band that, you know, is off-putting. You know, we've mentioned the opening track. We've, you know, just like Yammerer, you know, we've made that comparison before. Kind of they buck the trend on the kind of traditional song structures, quite abstract, quite avant-garde. I think the guy's vocals in particular is sometimes quite difficult to tune into. However, I think he does some quite interesting things with his voice. I mean, I think he uses it very deliberately.
Yeah, it's a deliberate style.
Yeah.
There's those vocals, and then there's a more normal, clean vocal, and I think they're two different singers. Certainly the sort of alt J kind of deliberately weird style of singing, that's one guy, and there's another type of much more normal, clean singing. It's often just solely on a track. So the first track you've got the weird singing, and the next track you've got normal singing.
Yeah.
And it, you know, there's a bit of a back and forth there.
I was going to say, with regards to the guy's vocals in particular, that the seventh song on the album, BM, there really isn't all that much to that at all. It just kind of opens up with this kind of dirty kind of bass line, a wee bit of kind of incomprehensible rather kind of chatter going on. But, you know, for the most part, the lyrics are pretty much just, she walks with a purpose. But he uses he uses voice as an instrument. Like, you know, the way he kind of pronounces the words is, as we said, quite deliberate. Makes some interesting sounds at times.
Yeah, and I first saw that song, which I'm going to call Boom Boom Boom.
Right, yeah.
I don't know,
Boom Boom.
but I don't know if
I just thought maybe is it just
BM or Boom Boom Boom.
BM. Do.
Exactly.
Might just be Black Midi.
Yeah,
Maybe?
probably
Most
is.
likely.
I'm going to call it Boom Boom Boom.
Let's go with Boom Boom Boom.
So, first time I heard Boom Boom Boom, it's genuinely like, what the fuck is this? because it's just the way he sings and the fact he's just going, she moves with a purpose, and just repeats that over and over
That's
again.
it.
And it's like a very, very
Like,
brilliant purpose and all
Yeah,
this. And
yeah.
but he warps and bends the way he says it
yeah, I mean,
in
it's
many different ways. But actually, the more I've listened to it, I really, really love it, because that bass line and like sort of marching band like drum rattles that open it it's just wonderful to listen to.
I found myself like shuffling along to it, like I like nodding my head and really quite enjoying it.
And it's that simple bass line and drums and the vocals, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But there's like a creepy undertone of like a woman screaming in the background,
Yeah, saying the odd thing here and there. Yeah.
and it's
But you can't
pretty
really
much
make any of
inaudible.
it out. Yeah.
But it just adds a sort of creepy kind of. I mean, I've written down, is this some serial killer shit? Because it's almost like someone's like, he's watching like this person
kind of stalking them.
and like, oh, she moves with purpose. And,
What a
like,
fantastic.
and I mean, I
part.
could be completely getting it wrong, but I just get that really sort of creepy vibe from it. But definitely the that bass and drums. In fact, the bass and the drums on the whole album really stand out. The bass has always got a grunt to it, or like a drive to it, and the drums are always really complex and lots of things going on, and yeah, they're just kind of a fascinating listen to see where the drums are going to go next. And definitely, if that's your bag, then you're definitely going to get something out of this. I wanted to mention of Schlagenheim because there's a sort of scattergun electronic that comes in after the first minute that just, it's like crack to my brain. It's just the way that comes in, and then it's like a squealing guitar line that comes in, and they sort of mingle together, and annoyingly it goes away, and they abandon it, but I'm just like, that is what I want. I want you to keep doing that, and they just abandon it. This is actually a song I do quite like this song, the rest of it. There's a song that we were listening to before, and it just devolves into absolute nonsensical screaming, and I think I'd listened to it and I was like, this is just like Vulva from Spaced. So if anyone's seen Spaced and you've listened to the end of the podcast, there's a little sample from one of the episodes with a character called Vulva, which is played by David Williams, and he's like what would you call him? An artist of sorts. A performance artist. And he sort of jumps around the stage howling and screaming, and that, that's completely for comic value. It's a pastiche of something that exists, and this is almost, I've said it's Vulva-esque. It's almost exactly that, and it's like, I mean, I suppose this is a pastiche as well in ways. I think it's that show. I mean, is that a serious thing, or is it just a sense of humour that they're showing?
I don't know. I think they intend to be taken seriously.
I mean, is this album them being serious artists?
I think so. That my gut feeling is, yeah. I mean, you could be forgiven for thinking that, like, because I did. Like, I think, say if these guys came on a pub or a music venue, kind of battle of the bands type thing, you'd probably laugh them off the stage and say, look at these cunts.
If the first track 953 came on and that riff came on, people would be chucking their pints at the jukebox.
Like the artist, I mean, the artist sounds pretentious. Like his vocal, the kind of alt J-esque singer, as we said, kind of we think that there's maybe two singers in the band. The alt J-esque singer, he sounds pretentious as fuck. You can't get around that, and I think that in itself might be off-putting for some listeners. Yeah,
this is definitely...
But I think they intend to be taken seriously. I don't think it's a pastiche by any stretch of the imagination.
It's definitely an album that a lot of people are... Yeah, definitely opinion divided. A lot of people are just going to hate this immediately. And we listened to a couple of tracks and we both were like, I can't listen to this. I don't want to listen to this. And then it was only just for the purpose of being fair, having sort of...
And seeing as we mentioned them.
Yeah, having mentioned them and sort of, talking shit about them a little bit without having given them the time, we felt kind of like we should go back to it. And actually, like you said earlier, it's kind of a welcome surprise that there's a lot more to love about this than first kind of appears. So yeah, I quite enjoyed this actually. Fully expecting to absolutely hate it. Are there any other standout moments you want to talk about?
Not particularly. I would agree with you. You kind of mentioned the rhythm section, the bass in particular. That's something that I've picked out time and time again.
It's
throughout the
definitely
course of
what
my
I've got the most out of this.
You've kind of mentioned off Shlagenheim. I kind of described that as almost being like kind of 3 different songs. Again, in my notes I've made kind of reference to the bass line. Kind of seriously fat, spelled P-H-A-A-T, bass line at the kind of 4:48 mark. Again, quite groovy. Same with Doctor. There's a really kind of groovy bass line to that as well, which I really enjoyed. That's the album. That's the song that we mentioned earlier on that I believe had radio play, the most radio friendly song from the album.
That vulva-esque vocal delivery comes back at the end of Doctor.
Yes, aye.
So it's kind of like there must be a radio edit of this song
because it is 6.
Yeah,
minutes.
it's a long song.
It's just under 7 minutes long.
But it's a pretty cool song. Sort of, it feels like you're out in the ether somewhere.
Yeah,
but very bizarre. Cool. How would you rate Shlagenheim by Black Midi?
I was wondering that when I was kind of writing the notes. I mean,
I'm a little bit torn.
Yeah, well, when we've rated albums in the past, it's a bit more straightforward. As I said at the start when we first started discussing the album, there's elements of it that I really quite enjoyed. However, overall, I found it quite frustrating to listen to. You kind of want them just to stick to one riff or stick to one genre, as it were, for the duration of the song. I probably would give them. I'm reluctant to give them anything less than a 5.
It's definitely not less than a 5.
But
I think if you're giving something under 5, you don't like it.
Yeah,
definitely don't like it.
I'm tempted to say 6. I wouldn't give them much more than that.
I would give them a 7, but I do think that if you spend more time with this album, you're going to get a lot more enjoyment out of it. And I think if I continue to listen to this, I think it could just get right into my skin and I could end up really loving it. But where I am at the moment, I just quite like it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a 7.
Something that's consistent with how you've rated albums in the past.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it is. I like this more than I like Black Mountain.
Yes, aye.
And I think I said a 7 and then reduced it to a 6 for Black Mountain. So I think that is consistent. And I do think that I could end up liking this even more, but I'm gonna hold back a little bit.
Aye, fair enough.
So I don't think we're too far off.
No, I mean it'd be interesting to see what they do in the future. Is it worth mentioning that this band, Black Midi, have kind of got quite a lot of traction, kind of media outlets, and from music journalists, and I think their live shows they haven't necessarily played the songs as they appear in the album.
No, I think this is like they've taken their live thing and then they've layered stuff. I think they say we've added things to this that we couldn't necessarily do live. So the live show might be a more stripped back. It'll sound more like a jam session. Yeah, potentially live, which I think was part of our criticism of it on the first listen, was that it sounded,
first song in particular,
it just sounded like they were jamming and not really, and like you said, just seeing what's stuck. Yeah, that's and not really having any particular direction. But when you actually get into the album and listen to it a bit more deeply, there does feel like there is some form of direction as a whole, because the songs often they start somewhere and they end somewhere similar. They do a sort of a loop. Not always, but and some of the things are so complex. You're kind of like, well, how could they possibly have just improvised that? I mean, there will be things that are just improvisation, and then they've just, because I think they've recorded this in like 5 days, so they've done it all pretty quickly.
See, I wonder, because I'm not a musician.
No, like me neither.
And I do wonder whether, on paper, it's technically brilliant, if that makes sense. But in terms of kind of aesthetics, kind of listening pleasure, some of it can be quite harsh. Like,
yeah, if you're a casual listener of music,
probably
stay clear of Black Midi.
Yes,
if you want something a bit more complicated and something that you might have to try to enjoy, sounds kind of pretentious.
Yeah, I was going to say work, but you shouldn't in this, and that's the thing. For it to be good, should it be immediately accessible?
I think there's room for
something
for more than just music that's immediate. There's it's such a broad medium that there's room for all sorts of kinds of music, and if there's something that you have to work at to enjoy, I mean, often that's a better experience than something you just immediately like and maybe put away and move on to the next thing.
Maybe short-lived. Yeah.
So there's certainly plenty to talk about, and it's worth listening to them just to see what all the fuss is about. And the problem with media hype of bands is that there's often no substance, and it's just hype for hype's sake. Somebody's decided, we're going to put this band up on a pedestal regardless of artistic integrity, exactly, and they'll just get the push. And then something like this comes along, which from the beginning sounds stupid and weird, and the music industry are pushing it up. You think, well, I'm not going to pay attention to this nonsense.
Yeah, because stuff like that immediately gets my hackles up.
As soon as the music media are promoting a band massively and saying they're the best new thing, it immediately turns you off.
Away to fuck.
And so I think there was a bit of that happening.
Aye.
So like I said, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so that was Shlagenheim, the debut album from Black Midi. Okay, so what do you want to move on to next?
I think it'd be worthwhile discussing Bats and their album Alternature, which was released on the 10th of October 2019. It's 9 songs long and approximately 40 minutes and 8 seconds in duration. It's the third studio album following The Sleep of Reason and Red in Tooth and Claws, from what I've described as post-hardcore prog rock, nightmare-inducing 5-piece band based in Dublin.
Yeah, I think post-hardcore prog, there's a bit of avant-garde kind of stuff in there. Emphasis on hardcore for sure. And nightmare-inducing is, I'd say that's accurate.
Aye. I think there's quite a lot of similarities between this album and Black Midi.
Not necessarily in sound, but in sort of complicated song structure.
Yes, kind of musical composition and the way the songs. Obviously, each song kind of goes through kind of a variety of different mutations.
I mean, the songs they got big riffs, terrifying screams, mixed with sort of slacker kind of vocals, which are recited almost robotically.
Yes, some of them are.
There's weird electronic flourishes, and the lyrical content is sort of science based.
It all kind of draws in kind of sci-fi.
There's sci-fi. There's sea monsters. They were even talking about abortion at one point. So there's a lot of stuff going on Alternature. I'd never heard of Bats before.
No, neither had I.
I just happened to come across the single of this album, which is called Old Hitler, which, after looking into Old Hitler a bit, I just thought it was some kind of weird song about the war or something, but actually looking into it a bit more, it's actually about a legendary hammerhead shark that used to prowl the waters off the coast of Florida.
That kind of makes sense in terms of the lyrics.
Because I was trying to take the whole Hitler concept and try and figure out what the lyrics meant, and they just didn't blend. So I was like, there must be something more to this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of about this monster shark.
Because one of the lyrics is, "You are the hammer, I am the hammer, and you are my nails."
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I suppose it is. And there's stuff about this beast below the water and its giant gaping maw. Right?
So it's
All this
not
kind of stuff.
good old Adolf.
So it's not good.
At all.
Because the first line is something like, "Oh, yes, I'm still alive" or something. So you're like, oh,
Yeah, but
it's
it
a
doesn't.
song about Hitler coming
But
back.
isn't there a total off the cuff statement after that? Like, I can't quite remember what it is, but like, no time. We've got no time to discuss it. And I was like,
Yeah.
all right, okay,
It's
so
like, he's back.
yeah, he's back.
But no, it's about a shark. So, I mean, it's got. That was the first song I heard, and it's just so strange and like really like jagged guitar riffs and like those slacker vocals I was talking about. There's a really good like sing along bit where it's like, "We are the men who delivered the bomb, wahoo," and it's like there's lots of
Wow.
weird vocal flourishes on the whole album like that. They're just kind of fun, even though the content is generally quite dark, and it's like it just gets really heavy and really angry. I guess that's what it would be like if you were being chased by a monster hammerhead shark.
Actually, it opens with quite a groovy riff, though.
Yeah, it does.
Really quite
But there's a lot of those. There's a lot of sort of groovy bass lines and things
Mhm.
and riffs on this as well. It's nightmarish, but it's fun's not the word. Catchy is what I mean.
The bass lines,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely are. Yeah,
The first track on the album, "Summoning the Demon," is possibly one of my favourite opening tracks I've heard on any album this whole year. I fucking love it.
I've written brilliant opening track. Opens with kind of echoey drums. It actually sounds as if they're kind of banging on a bit of Tupperware or something like that. It doesn't actually sound like a drum. But yeah, I was quite concerned that I might be summoning a demon listening to it. Yeah, I really quite enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, like I think when I mentioned the sort of almost robotic vocals, it's almost like an incantation at times.
Yeah.
And then they've got these like we had them. When I mentioned these the vocal flourishes before. They've got at the end of lines they throw things in like a rah 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 or yeah 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 or ha ha ha, just like at the end of lines, and it's like
Almost sounds like a scratch in a CD or something like that.
Yeah.
Something's kind of caught.
but it's
obviously deliberate.
it's just fun to join them with it,
Yeah.
with those weird moments. But the vocals themselves sound almost like placebo. I don't know the singer's name offhand, but they've got that kind of
Something Maloko.
is it? They've
Something local.
got that similar sort of sound and timbre, I suppose.
It's funny you say that because I've written here it sounds like the lead vocalist is challenging his inner Black Francis.
Okay.
Everything must come back to the Pixies at all times, as
Especially if
you
it's
very
a
well
bit-
know.
if it's a little bit dark.
But particularly in the kind of bossa nova era, kind of trompe le monde time of the Pixies, which when they were kind of discussing a lot of kind of singing about a lot of kind of sci-fi stuff as well. I don't know whether or not people would agree with me or not, but yeah. I think it's maybe just the guy's accent, because although they're based in Dublin, they don't sound Irish. It's not like
definitely
it's not like we're listening to Fontaine's DC. I think they're probably American.
Yeah, it sounds
It sounds
sounds
like, unless
neutral
the-
if nothing else.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely great opener. There's a weird sort of Bill Gates. I'm sure it's Bill Gates. I haven't checked this, but there's a sample in there. There's a weird distorted sample. I'm sure it's Bill Gates talking about how we should be careful with artificial intelligence and what we should be.
Okay, yeah.
And that's kind of what the song is about. The demon is a machine, and it's it's artificial intelligence, and like what will we build? How will we build it? What do we know?
Is it contained?
Like exactly. It's almost like the early days of Skynet or something.
Yeah,
It's so good. I just love everything about the song. Yeah, great opener.
How did you enjoy the second track in the album, Christian Science?
Yeah, it's a similar kind of like, it's got this really sort of crunching, fizzing bass intro, and there's some weird electronics, and then it's basically a song about having a massive tumour.
Size of a grapefruit.
Yeah, the size of a grapefruit, and then just assuming that
It'll be alright.
It'll be alright, and
You don't need doctors.
you don't. Yeah, exactly. You don't need doctors to cure. You don't need science. You don't need modern science. You just need faith in a deity, and you'll be alright. And there's a bit of sort of sarcasm to some of the lyrics, and there's a great sort of like screaming. Just after he's declared he's got this tumour, just like screaming, no, 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 yeah, and it's really, really powerful. But like the screams are really like horrific.
They're quite jarring, aren't they? Aye.
But yeah,
I think that's going to be a bit of a crowd favourite, just with the bit where they're shouting Christian Science. I can see that going down particularly well during their live acts.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the first 4 tracks on this album are really good.
Yeah.
Like we talked about Old Hitler already. The third track called Cthulhu is just, I mean, if you know anything about Cthulhu,
Cthulhu or Cthulhu?
Cthulhu.
I don't know. Is it H.G. Wells or H.P. Lovecraft?
It's H.P. Lovecraft. I say Cthulhu, you say Cthulhu.
Tomato.
I was about to say yes, it is H.G. Wells. No, it's H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah.
And it's basically it's like a short story he wrote called. I think it's called.
I think it is called The Call of Cthulhu.
And it's about like this monstrous sea monster.
Yeah. Featured in South Park as well.
Is it in South Park?
Yeah.
Mecha Streisand.
No, that's after that. It's after that.
So and it's just like, I mean, the subject of the song is about this horrific, unstoppable monster, and that's kind of the way I would describe the song. You know, it's got sort of discordant guitar sounds in the start. There's that sort of almost Gregorian chant going on in the background.
That sounds like an occultist chant.
Yeah. And then it's got this just really unstoppable, chunky, rumbling bass line. It's just like, it's just full of grime and just kind of drips with cool. And yeah, I don't know if there's much more to say about that song other than it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's good.
And like I said before, all the first 4 tracks are all very, very good. In general, I think all the songs are pretty good. I think it takes a little bit of a dip post Old Hitler.
I would say maybe in the Court of the CRISPR King after that, because I did quite enjoy in the Court of the CRISPR King. I had to look up what CRISPR was, because when I first listened to it, I thought they were singing about the Crispy King, and I was just imagining some sort of like chocolate equivalent of the Lollipop King sitting in this kind of court. I don't know what I was thinking, but something to do with genetic code.
Yes, I found that as well, and it's gene editing and stuff. And then there's quite a cool repeated line where they're singing, in the Court of the CRISPR King we can target any gene, and it's quite floaty and quite sort of fun to sing along to. But I felt after the first 4 tracks, for me it took a little bit of a dip, and not a huge dip, just a little bit of a dip. I think just because as you go into the Court of CRISPR King, it's the heaviness drops away a little bit in that song. So the first 4 songs are really kind of hard hitting, but it's not to say those next couple of tracks aren't good. And just they're not as good as the ones that came before it. I mean, even the next song, Ergo, I mean, I said the heaviness drops away, but that song's got some of the really sort of metal riffs in it, and sort of good guitar chugs and crashing drums and screaming. I think the vocals, there's some female screamed vocals on this one as well, so it's good. I just don't think it's as good as the sort of previous tracks. I actually feel like it sort of picks up again towards the end.
I was kind of reading up about, I didn't read up all that much about bats, but apparently the 7th song, Dyson's Fear, which I would say kind of feels, I've kind of written down here, feels a lot more like your kind of conventional prog rock, perhaps more than kind of like the previous songs, the first 4 in particular maybe. But I read that one commentator stated that this is kind of more in keeping with their previous albums.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Is Dyson's Fear less heavy? I'm trying to remember. It doesn't matter anyway, but the opening Dyson's Fear I like a lot because it's got a strangely reminds me of a song by Block Party called Banquet. Banquet's a quite raging rock song, like a sort of technical rock song, but the guitars and the drums remind me of Banquet, but at a slower pace. That trigger in my brain, because Banquet is such a good song. I just immediately hear that and I'm like, yeah, this is great. And then it's, we've got another sort of science fiction concept here where the Dyson sphere is basically building a megastructure around a star so you can harness its energy. So it's like this thing about when civilization gets to the point where it can't support itself on its own planet or star, this is a concept that people have come up with that they might use, an interstellar society might use. They build this massive structure around a sun and soak up all its energy to power their iPhones and whatnot.
So Dyson was coming up with this before or after he invented the Hoover?
Yeah, exactly. I think someone...
Is it just coincidental?
Well, I think it was invented by a science fiction author of a different name.
Alright.
The idea, and then Dyson. It can't be the same Dyson.
Well, you never know.
Before he invented his Hoover, he came up with this idea of harnessing the energy of a sun to power his Hoover. But we've kind of digressed a little bit there. Totally. But yeah, it's a proper like prog track, and then there's a brilliant mad antagonistic sax solo right towards the end, which is delightful. And then you've got last two tracks. You've got Family Planning, Current Affairs. Family Planning, I mentioned abortion before, so it's kind of about that subject. There's the riff on it reminds me of a Deftones song, My Own Summer, Shove It, but with some brutal screaming over the top of it. It's a pretty unforgiving track, and about, I don't know if it's a non-biased song and almost saying, looking at it from both perspectives, because it sort of says take a life, save a life, and there's things about cut it out, and then there's like talking about almost like the dated concepts and stuff. So I don't know if it's sort of a wry. It sits on the fence, but its support of the others its support against abortion is almost a wry commentary on it. But I couldn't find I couldn't actually find the lyrics to sort of try and pick those apart a bit better. But it's a good song.
Yeah.
And the last song, the name intrigued me, so I kind of had a look into it. So it's Current Affairs in brackets Topsy Rides the Lightning, and this is it turns out that Topsy is an elephant.
Yeah.
An elephant who was part of a circus on Coney Island in New York in the early 1900s, and Topsy was a badly behaved elephant and was ultimately put to death. Originally the idea was that Topsy would be hanged in front publicly in front of thousands of spectators, and then people stepped in and said no, that would be cruel. So instead of that, they decided they would poison and electrocute Topsy in front of only some selected guests, which isn't cruel at all, apparently.
I never realised that's what this song was about.
Well,
but I know the story.
Yeah, I'd never heard that story before. I was quite horrified.
There's a video of it on YouTube. You can watch it.
I know. I kind of.
Is it like an electrical plate?
I don't know. I didn't get that deeply into how they did it, and I stopped myself. I was gonna watch it, and then I was like, actually, I don't want to watch this. It's there if you want.
It's there if you want
to see an elephant.
It's on YouTube.
If you want to see an elephant cruelly electrocuted.
Did you say it was Coney Island?
Coney Island, so it's New York. So there you have it. So there are lots of very, very angry screaming. It kind of goes with the kind of horrific subject matter that the song is based on. So, and it's a pretty good outro to the album, to be completely honest. So I wasn't sure if you would like this. I thought, is this, and when I first gave it to you, you said you put it on and you were frightened by it.
I was frightened. So, like I said, I genuinely thought I was summoning the demon. Hence why I kind of described them as kind of nightmare inducing. But I mean, same with the kind of Black Midi album. There's a lot of elements in this album that I really quite enjoyed. Again, we've kind of mentioned the rhythm section, you know, the bass. There are elements that I enjoyed. Whether or not it's an album that I go back and listen to, I'm not 100% sure. If I was, there's maybe a few songs that I would kind of go back and listen to. The Call of Cthulhu in particular.
Yeah.
Probably the first song. Maybe that's about it, if I'm honest.
Okay. I was listening to this a lot before I even put it forward for the podcast, so I've probably listened to a lot more, and I'm definitely going to be. I'm definitely not going to stop listening to it because I think it's a great album.
You going to go back and listen to the earlier stuff?
I think I should. I haven't yet, but I'd like to see if it's similar or
it'd be interesting
how it compares to the earlier stuff, because I've really got into this quite heavily, and like I said, there's a bit of a dip in the sort of middle, which I really like the first 4 songs so much that there is that noticeable dip, but they're still good songs, and it ends on a high as well. So good album. How will I give it a score then? I'd easily give this an 8 or 9.
Right. This is just my I'd give it 5 out of 10, but that's just personal preference. And at the end of the day, as we've said before, music's subjective. You know, we can't all like the same. We can't all like the same stuff.
And I mean, you've said if you're going back to it, you were going to go back to 1 or 2 tracks or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, that's probably fair.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it depends if you like weird, heavy, proggy stuff, then you probably get a lot out of this, because there is a lot of heavier sort of post-hardcore kind of stuff.
It's different from like the prog rock bands that we've covered in the past. Like it's not like Black Mountain.
That's entirely different. Black Mountain is more like classic rock, prog, or
drone rock almost. Yeah.
Whereas this is a hardcore band doing prog. Yeah. Essentially, I like hardcore. I like it quite a lot. So this is very much up my street, and the fact that it's a bit weird as well is also up my street. So good. So that was Alter Nature by Bats. I think I remember the name now. There's a little bit of a mixed consensus there, but an album worth checking out. Then.
Yep.
So, Critical Method is a new album from Belgian band Steak. Now, this is technically a debut album, but technically it's also the 5th album from Belgian band Steak number 8. So just before this album was released, they changed the band's name. Mm-hmm. I don't think they've changed anything else about the band other than the name. So technically it's a debut. Actually, if you're splitting hairs, it's technically their 5th album. Yeah. And it's another band I'd never heard of, which a lot of these albums we're reviewing are bands neither of us know, but sometimes you just hear a single of a new album and it kind of pricks your ears up, so you check these bands out. So I can't remember the track.
So the singles from the album were Catatonic Dreams, The Absolute Centre, and Doped Up Salvations.
I think it was the first single, and I think that was Doped Up Salvations, and it's just an absolute belter, which aggressive, noisy, which I suppose I was saying with Bats that I quite I like that kind of thing, so that pricked my ears up. So this is another album with sort of big riffs, harsh screams, big drums. There's some really cool guitar tones on not just on the riffing, but on the sort of lead guitar work. It's sort of a fusion of like metal, alt rock. There's some sort of sludgy, doomy kind of passages. There's a lot of groove on it as well. So I find myself quite enjoying this quite a bit. The first part of the first track is really stand out. It's just got this big stomping, swaggering riff, really sort of aggressive with the vocal screams of "Stay the fuck out of my way." And it's just a great way to start an album and to start a song. And it kind of, there's a little bit of kind of prog in this as well, where it just, after that, it sort of changes tact and becomes more sort of standard rock with cleaner vocals, but then it keeps bringing back these big riffs, and it closes on that same riff again. So it's a pretty cool intro to the album. What are your thoughts on?
I mean, overall, I kind of enjoyed it. When I was kind of reading up about the band, I read on their own website, pretty much just repeating what you say here, but they kind of they see this as a new chapter in what they described as unseen energy, and describe themselves as hyper atmospheric grunge-core, or post-metal oriented melodic sludge. And it's kind of the more melodic stuff in the album that I seem to kind of tune into more. In particular, is it, what's the name of the song? Something Throne. Human Throne.
Yes.
I really quite enjoyed that.
That's definitely the most clean. There's a lot less screaming on that song, is what I'm trying to say.
Aye, well, I've kind of described it as melodic, however, it's in equal parts quite grungy. I was reminded briefly of kind of early Foo Fighters. I think it's something to do with the kind of vocal delivery rather than the kind of musical composition more than anything else. However, it does get a lot heavier kind of towards the end of the song, but yeah, I really quite enjoyed that. Similarly, kind of Devolution track that
6.
But it begins in very much the same way. The last track, Eyes for Gold, was fantastic. For me, that was probably the kind of most standout track.
Yeah, I really love it's got like this lead guitar line that's almost like it would be in like a modern horror film. And yeah, it's like I've written here, it's so good I could listen to it all day. And
it's a fantastic.
And it annoys me when it goes away. I'm just like, I love that guitar line when it goes away, and it goes away for quite a while. There's sort of variations of it throughout the song. It kind of comes back towards the end, but that first time it comes in, I'm just like, this is bliss.
Yeah.
And I think like all of these first few albums we've been talking about, there's lots of variation and lots of ideas and just all sorts of different things happening, and they're all kind of thrown in together. But I definitely think Stake, this is more about the riffing than any of the other albums that have come before it. There are so many big chunky riffs on this, and they're like proper metal riffs, but they're also, they'll start a riff and then they'll lock into a groove with it, and that's a proper kind of head banging kind of thing, where you just get this massive heavy groove, and you just bang your head along to it. And there's if you like that kind of thing, there's definitely a lot for you on this album. But like you say, it breaks it up with those sort of clean sections. Some of the clean sections are some of the best parts on the album, definitely. But
I mean, there is quite a lot of interesting guitar sounds, like you said. I mean, the thing is that it's in Catatonic Dreams, which, as we said earlier on, that's kind of one of the singles from the album. Like, it almost seems like the guitar is like an barking at you.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed that.
But there's a lot of kind of aggressive noises on the album. Like, I've written out some of the noises they make with the guitars are like a bit like laser blasts at times, and just shrieks and squeals, and I mean, particularly on the intro of Catatonic Dreams, it's like a sort of convulsing wave of guitar. It's just, there's so many cool things going on in this album, and I think my criticism of this, and it's the same with all of these albums, is sometimes these cool things don't happen for long enough. They have a cool riff or a cool guitar lick, and then they just throw it away and go on to something else, and they don't always necessarily go back to it, which can be a bit disappointing. But I think there's enough there's enough going on to keep you interested throughout, really.
Who would you liken them to, if you were to liken them to any band?
I couldn't think of many examples. The only one I could think of is another pretty relatively unknown band who don't even have an album out. They're called Foxjaw, and they've got they released an EP at the start of this year called A Playground for Sad Adults, and they released another EP the end of last year called Goodbye Dinosaur, I think it's called.
Okay.
And they've just got these very similar, these massive songs, huge riffs, huge prog moments, massive like guitar lines, and a mixture of clean and harsh vocals. And I think in this kind of specific kind of combination, that's the only band I could really think of that were even similar. Because there are plenty of bands out there who do these things individually. There's not necessarily quite as many that do them all mixed together.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are, I just don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I can't think of any at the moment, but I mean there's some of the like the stuff I was saying about like sort of these noises like laser blast. There's like a subgenre of bands who do it's like tech metal, who do like weird shit like that all the time. There's a band who do it to the extreme called Car Bomb, and they just take it to another level where it's just like, I mean, I say on this the riffs don't last long. In Car Bomb you get a riff for about 2 seconds and then it goes into some kind of mental shooting laser blast noise, and the moves it's so jagged and it doesn't stay in one place for any one time. But they're kind of a different thing, but there's elements of that sound that Stake have. So they've got all these different elements and they pull them together. So it's I think it's hard to find any one band they really sound all particularly like. Because I mean, you brought up Foo Fighters. They've said they've got a sort of grunge feel, and there's definitely sort of some of the heavier parts of Nirvana. I mean, there's those kind of things in there as well, but it's difficult to actually sort of say this band sound like they sound like them, but they sound like a lot of bands just at different times. Yeah, I think. But Foxjaw, I mean, if you listen to Critical Method and you find yourself enjoying that, go and check out Foxjaw. Check out their EPs. I imagine they'll have an album out next year, but I'm looking forward to. So they're definitely worth checking out if this is kind of your bag. I'm just noticing there's the song called Careless, which is the third track on the album, which this is kind of another aspect of their sound which they don't really do again on the album. It's got like this sort of it's got an almost new metal bounce in the opening, which is like reminded me of Linkin Park's One Step Closer.
It's funny because I did come away thinking that there is an element in this band that does have that kind of new metal sound. There was times where I was kind of reminded of Deftones.
Yeah. That's definitely, I mean, specifically Careless is the one that jumped out for me because it starts a little bit like Linkin Park's One Step Closer with that bounce, and then it ends almost like a Slipknot song in that kind of like harsh intensity, but it still has that kind of fun kind of bounce. And in fact, the Queen vocals on there, I'd kind of thought they sounded a bit like Corey Taylor when he does his Queen singing. So they've got that as well as all this the riffing and the sort of sludginess and the sort of doom-esque grooves and things that they've got in there too. So it's quite a varied listen, very aggressive for much of it, but they break it up with these more melodic passages, which I think if it was just constant intensity, by the end of it you'd be a bit battered. Yeah. Cool. Anything else you want to say about about Stake? Okay. How do you feel about this one?
I think I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's my feeling. What about yourself?
I think it's an 8. I think
an 8 for you.
If I'm going back and sort of slotting it in somewhere, I think I would go back and I would probably give Bats a 9.
Okay.
Like, because I said 8 or 9 there, so if I'm going to slot, I'd say this is somewhere. I think I preferred Bats, so I'd give this an 8. If I'm trying to like put them in order of like how I've rated them, I think that's where it would fit in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, if you were doing like a varying degrees of 8, like
yeah,
This one's an 8.4.
I was going
that
to
one's
say
an
8.5,
8.56.
8.6, yeah.
Yeah, like all that.
I'm trying to remember, how did I rate Pat's? 6 out of 10?
I think you gave it a 5, man.
Did I? 5
You were
out of 10?
pretty brutal.
Yeah. Is that the worst score yet?
It is the worst.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what I rated Black Mountain.
You gave Black Mountain was a 6. You gave them.
Alright. Oh well.
So,
I'm all over the place in my fucking ratings.
maybe we need to start getting a bit more
Yeah,
consistent.
I need a wall chat or something here.
And we should keep a little list of that could end up being a pretty long list. Cool. Okay. So yeah, if you like sort of big riffs and harsh screaming, a bit of melodic stuff thrown in as well, then you might be into Critical Method by Steak. Okay, so all those albums we've just talked about, including Yammerer's EP, have all been similar in a way, in that they're all quite proggy and sort of weird, aggressive, and all over the place, I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll finish with something a little bit different,
Completely different.
which is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Ghosteen. You want to start?
Yeah. So Snedds said there, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Ghosteen. This was released on the 3rd of October 2019. It's 11 songs long and approximately 1 hour and 8 minutes in duration. It's the 17th studio album from Nick Cave's and the Bad Seeds, and it comes approximately 3 years after the release of Skeleton Key, released in 2016. Ghosteen is technically a double album. Part 1 consists of songs 1 to 8, starting with Spinning Song and ending with Leviathan. Part 2 consists of the last 3 songs, Ghosteen, Fireflies and Hollywood. I don't know if it's worth mentioning, however, in a website entitled The Red Hand Files, where Nick Cave directly fields questions from his fan base, a guy by the name of Joe from Bexhill had kind of asked him, what can we expect from the kind of new album? And Nick Cave responded in kind by giving the details of the new album, i.e. basically what I've just kind of told you, and then went on to describe the first 8 songs as The Children, and the further 3 songs as their parents, and that Ghosteen is a migrating spirit. What that means, I've absolutely no idea. I don't feel as if I've got quite what it takes to kind of decipher and understand Nick Cave's lyrical content. However, it's perhaps worth mentioning that Nick Cave tragically lost his son Arthur Cave at the age of 15 back on the 14th of July 2015. It's fairly well documented online if you kind of care to read about it. The only reason that I kind of bring this up is because a lot of commentators have remarked on how this album, Ghosteen in particular, kind of deals with themes of loss, grief and death. Obviously there was the release of kind of Skeleton Key back in 2016, which I kind of said earlier on. However, apparently most of that was written before the death of his son. However, you can't help and listen to this album and not get that kind of over prevailing feeling. An article on The Guardian by a journalist by the name of Kitty Empire, which was dated the 5th of October 2019, she described this as heavenly haunting. I've heard the album described as esoteric. I would describe it as kind of ethereal, and you can't help but get immersed in it.
Yeah, I kind of described it as like beautiful, heartbreaking yet uplifting journey through life, death and coping with loss. Yeah, it's a really affecting album. It's maybe worth pointing out that there's a member of the Bad Seeds, Diane, passed away in 2018 as well. So
knew that.
I think let's find his name. Conway Savage. There we go.
Conway Savage.
Yeah.
What a name. What a name.
I think he died of a brain tumour, which he'd known about for a year in advance, so I imagine much of this album was written
In relation to him, maybe as well.
potentially at least some of this would have been written in the knowledge that he was going to pass away.
Yeah.
And in the aftermath of his passing, probably during the recording as well. So it's not, there's a lot of kind of heartbreak, I suppose, and grief going on, not just with the death of Nick Cave's son, but also with one of his long-time collaborators as well, because I think he's been in the band since the 90s.
And the band's been going for 20 odd years, I believe, maybe even longer than that.
So he's potentially been in from the very start.
Yeah.
I don't really know much about Nick Cave or the Bad Seeds. It's not an artist I've really bothered with, I have to say.
To be honest, it's not they're not a band or artists that have kind of really came up on my radar. How they have done collaborations with artists that I have listened to in the past. For example, like the Pogues, Nick Cave and Shane McGowan have done stuff in the past. However, our mutual friend Ross Booth, shout out to the both there. It's a band. It's an artist that he's kind of listened to for years and kind of been encouraging me to kind of listen to, and I chose to listen to Ghosteen just to see what all the fuss was about, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fantastic. I'm gonna cut to the chase. I'm rating this album 10 out of 10. Like,
cheers, not 5.
it is the one album out of the albums that we've covered in this podcast that I've kind of went back to time and time again, and it's kind of, we've said previously, just in kind of discussions before we kind of started recording, that it's a really moving album. I mean, it's actually made me cry, and I can't think of many other artists or songs, albums, whatever, that's affected me in that way.
No, it's very rare that any kind of art will move you to tears.
Yeah.
Let alone music. And
he's talking about me. Talking
I was you as in everyone.
Yes.
But if I was to be specific, it's rare that any kind of art moves me to tears.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm a bit of an emotionless robot, but you have to nod your head quite so vigorously there. I find myself welling up a number of times on this. I didn't burst out in tears or anything, but I had to fight back.
Yeah.
The emotion that this album made me feel, and it's unusual. I mean, occasionally you'll get music that'll give you sort of goosebumps and things.
Yeah, chills and that.
But it's rare that you actually have that sort of physical outburst of emotion or have to fight it back. So it's it's a very odd experience, but a rewarding one in it.
Oh, absolutely.
The idea of putting on an album that is going to make you sad. Well, not necessarily sad, just make you feel something. I wouldn't necessarily say I want to put an album on that's going to make me cry, because you're not always going to... When are you going to be like...
Experience,
when are you going to be like, yeah, I want to put this on and I want to have a good cry? I mean, some people are like that, I suppose, but... where am I going with this? Just like... But I like the point I'm trying to make is that you wouldn't normally put on something that you think is going to make you cry, but it's such a good album, and it's such an experience, a listen, that you can't help but want to listen to it.
I think that's a great way of describing it, as an experience.
So it's difficult to sort of really describe how it gets that kind of emotion, but it's like it's a combination of a lot of things. It's a combination of the lyrics, it's a combination of the vocal delivery, it's a combination of the music, which much of the time is really stripped back.
But I don't think there's really... I mean, as I said, it's kind of... I kind of described it earlier on as kind of being ethereal. A lot of it's kind of just kind of floaty, tape loops, electronic sounds. There isn't... there's kind of some sparse piano throughout, but I don't think there's any guitars. I don't think there's really all that much of a rhythm section there at all. I think you maybe hear I wouldn't say it's like your kind of your traditional drum kit or traditional drum setup. I think there is a little bit of drums in some of the tracks, but I'm finding it hard to put my finger on.
The drums are definitely, when they're there, they're not pronounced. There's
No,
like
they're
a little
definitely
sort
not.
of pitter patter.
Yeah.
There's some bongos or something.
Bongos.
I always
yeah.
laugh when I say bongos just because
It's a bit of a comedy instrument.
it's a
isn't
comedy
it?
instrument, but there are bongos in there. But you know, not for.
Not for very long.
They work as you know, just some percussion in the background. You know, there's a bit of triangle going.
It does
kind
kind
of
of make
thing
you
in there.
wonder what the rest of the band were doing, really, when they recorded. I mean, I don't know who does what in the band, because like you said earlier on, I'm not well acquainted with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, but they're obviously doing something.
I know. I mean, there's obviously more to being in a band than just playing instruments.
Yes,
there's
absolutely.
obviously contribution to songwriting and arrangements and all this kind of stuff that I know nothing about.
I think from what I've read, Nick Cave wrote all the songs, and it's Warren Ellis who did most of the musical composition
Okay.
in collaboration with Nick Cave.
Yeah. So like you say, there's sort of electronics in it. I mean, I think I probably use synths too often, but I think that's what they are. I don't know. But like you say, it's difficult to sort of describe the sound, because it's, like you say, it's ethereal or like otherworldly, and it feels like it's almost like nightfall, where it's just that sort of atmosphere of being
Hypnagogic state is the
Hypnagogic
technical
state.
word for it. Just before you fall off to sleep.
well, more just being outside at
Oh.
night with the sort of stars above you, and that's the kind of feeling you often get from the kind of soundscape that they're
I mean,
producing.
I've described it as kind of musical landscapes that they can kind of create.
Yeah.
And I mean, I suppose that's almost in keeping with, I mean, I don't know, we don't normally mention this type of stuff, but have you seen the album cover?
Yes, I haven't really paid all that close attention to it though. I feel like I should.
There's really not all that much to say about it other than it's quite kitsch. It does look otherworldly. It looks almost like a kind of Garden of Eden type place. I don't know if that bears any relation to the kind of sounds that they were trying to create on the album. It's just it just kind of sprung to mind when we were kind of talking about it there. There's like unicorns there and other kind of fantastic types of animals.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just coincidental. I don't know.
I'm sure there's a deliberateness to everything about this album.
Yeah.
To be honest, so there will have been a lot of thought going into that as well, and there's probably people out there who will write essays on all of this.
Because it's poetry, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember what band. It might have been Fontaine's DC actually, where we were kind of talking about their kind of vocal delivery and the stuff that they're kind of talking about. And
Yeah, because Nick Cave, he does sing, but he also does a lot of sort of spoken word, and tuneful spoken word, I think, is the way to describe it, and it's sort of folky as well. But when you think of folk, you think of like an acoustic guitar or something, and it's not really that, but it's got that kind of, the vocal I suppose is sort of folky. But what are the sort of standout moments?
I would say the first 4 songs. I know we kind of said that it's a kind of double album, and it consists of kind of the first 8 songs and the last 3 songs. But the first 4 songs for me, I don't think you can fault them. The opening track, Spinning Song, it's almost kind of telling the story. I did wonder whether it was a kind of commentary on his own life. He kind of talks about, is it the King of Rock?
Yeah, I wonder
With his
that.
black jelly hair, and he's got kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
He's got that wavy black sort of waxy.
He's got a slick back. I mean, that's
Yeah.
became his trademark, I think. You know, slicked back black hair, and it ends with this kind of repetition of kind of peace will come.
Yeah,
It's
and
a
it's
bit of a mantra towards the end of the song, from what I remember, and it's
well, the way, I mean, what I said before was the vocal delivery specifically, because the way that part is delivered in this sort of haunting falsetto that kind of rises and ebbs and flows. that's affecting. I don't
Oh,
know
it is.
why it is. It's just the way that the delivery is done. It's so emotional, and then it gets this sort of choral backing towards the end as well, which just sort of brings a sort of air of grandeur to it, I suppose. And yeah, it's a really sort of powerful way to open the album. Really haunting, otherworldly, and like you say, is it about his own life or is it just a sort of general thing? Some of the lyrics are pretty out there. There's talking about a little bird in a tree and his little feather like floating up into the sky, and how do you interpret all that kind of stuff in amongst the story about the king of rock and roll, and I think he passes away and his wife is left. So I mean, I guess it's sort of talking about grief, dealing with the passing of a family member or whatever. So who or what? I mean, whether it's specifically referring to anyone, I don't know.
You don't know.
But like you say, you've picked up on the sort of description of the king as being quite similar to Nick Cave's appearance, which was exactly what I picked up on. But yeah, good opening. I think the first 4 songs are excellent, particularly Bright Horses, which
this is the one I well up to, man.
This is the one. The first within seconds, I'm like.
Well, I've kind of made reference to that in my notes, kind of when we were talking about it, and you said, you know, the opening, I think, is round about the kind of 20-second mark where this kind of high pitched vocal comes in. You says it kind of gets you every time. You can't help but kind of well up.
It's just like a haunting cry. But it's such a great melody. Yeah. But it's just, there's something about it. Like how do you even write something that gets that emotional response so quickly? I can't. It's baffling to me. But it's just the fact that it makes me emotional makes it even more enjoyable, which is another strange kind of thing. But
as you said earlier on, you don't put music on, I don't know, with intention of crying and getting upset. This song does make me well up. I have had a few tears in my eyes, I have to admit, when listening to the song, but yeah, it's a song that I go back to time and time again. It's like, it would be one of my choice cuts, let's just say, from this album. Absolutely.
I would say it gives me that emotional response, but I wouldn't say that I feel upset at any point on this album. I get that emotional response, but it doesn't make me sad, it doesn't make me depressed or anything like that. There's sort of 2 sides to the coin, where it's got this really sort of sad subject matter, but it's also uplifting as well. It balances that really well, and it doesn't just leave you depressed. And that's even within individual songs. It kind of it's got these really powerful moments that are sad and will make you want to cry, but it's also got these really hopeful, uplifting moments that talk of hope and faith and all these kinds of things, and it definitely doesn't leave me upset, which I think is the reason you want to go back to it. You don't go back to it because at the end of it, if you're upset and you're depressed, well, then why would you want to go back to something that puts you in that mood? But it doesn't do that, I think.
As you said, with this song particularly, you kind of talk about it kind of, you know, being sad, emotional, and kind of in equal measures uplifting. This song in particular kind of talks about bright horses with flames full of fire parting the cities, those bright burning horses, and later goes on to talk about how said horses are actually springing from somebody whom I assume is his love interest's hands. And then there is a bit of a change. You can round about the kind of 2-minute mark where kind of Nick Cave goes on to say, or sing rather, that the horses are just horses. There's nothing exceptional about them, you know, and there is no lord, that everyone is hidden, everyone is cruel, there's no shortage of tyrants, and there's no shortage of fools. However, again, kind of putting it on its head, as it were, you know, he goes on to say, this world is plain to see, doesn't mean that we can't believe in something, and anyway, my baby's coming back now on the next train. And then he kind of goes on to talk about, you know, standing at the station, hearing the whistle blowing, knowing that she's going to come in. And for me, I suppose the kind of take home message of this song in particular, and maybe the album as a whole is, you know, that things may be pretty bleak, things may be pretty crap, like a better word or phrase, however, kind of love and compassion can kind of make life a bit better, and you know, there are things in life that are kind of worth living for. Maybe I'm kind of going down a bit of a rabbit hole here.
Yeah, but I
don't know.
I think you're right, and there is that. I feel like there's that theme on the whole album.
Yeah.
And you get that kind of that loop on this song particularly, but there's probably a lot of different ways to interpret this song, just because of the way, you know, we're talking about flaming horses and stuff. But I was kind of
horse heavy album.
Yeah. I was thinking of it as almost like when you're born into the world, everything seems quite magical and special, and then as you grow older you begin to realise that actually everything's pretty plain and mundane, and the kind of magic sort of disappears. And it was just kind of where the whole everyone is you know, the horses are just horses, and all the people are cruel and all this kind of thing. And then, like you were saying before, regardless of whether the world is plain to see, that's no reason not to have faith and not believe, because he mentions particularly there is no Lord.
There is no Lord. Yeah.
And then he comes back and says something like he basically mentions there is a Lord, and it almost feels like about finding faith again. And then this whole thing about my baby coming back on the train is almost, to me, like, is this the afterlife?
Right.
In a way, you know, you get to see your loved ones in the end, or whatever.
Possibly.
If you know, if that's
maybe
your
faith in the Lord being restored. I mean, as
yeah,
you say,
I think there's
so
ways to
many different
interpret
ways.
it, but that was kind of the idea I got. You know, you're born, you lose kind of faith in the world and potentially in religion, and then you might later, that faith might be rekindled, and so you've got some sort of hope that, for the future. But other than that, it's just a bloody good song.
Yeah, aye.
Regardless of whether you care to try and unpick the lyrics, it's just a really good, a beautiful song.
Yeah,
that's the only way to describe it, I think. And that's how you describe most of these songs. There's just kind of something beautiful about the whole album, and its stripped back nature. I mean, the next track is just Nick Cave on a piano, essentially.
Yeah, waiting for you.
There's a lot of talk of religion for sure on this, mentions the baby Jesus quite a lot.
Yeah, I think that's just part of Nick Cave's kind of canon, as it were. Like, he kind of, it's a kind of bit of a reoccurring theme throughout the course of most of his albums. And I'm only saying this because, you know, I've spoken to Boff about it, and he, like I said, he's quite a big Nick Cave fan. He once told me, when I was kind of discussing this album with him and how much I'd kind of enjoyed it, he said that Nick Cave had once said, basically, you're not a real artist, or you're not a real singer unless you sing about Jesus. I couldn't find that quoted anywhere, and I looked high and low for it, but I couldn't find it, because I wanted to have, like, you know, details of an article in which he said it, and I couldn't find it. I've got a feeling, however, it might be in the movie that's made about him, which I think is called 2000 Days on Earth.
Could be
200,000 Days on Earth, perhaps. I don't know. I've never seen it.
Is that the recent? Was it recent?
Fairly recent.
It was a fairly recent one, yeah. Which I think was all about partly about the sort of tour that he did, with like whatever it was, like an evening with, or sort of thing that he did.
Yeah.
So it's probably quite an interesting film to watch. Definitely off the back of listening to this anyway.
Well, kind of like I mentioned about that album, that website, the Red Hand Flies. The Red Hand Files. That's a fairly new thing. It's probably only a number of years old, and I think Nick Cave's kind of quoted in saying that since the death of his son, he's, I don't know, became more aware of other people's suffering and humanity, humility, and what have you. And I think he'd done interviews, but I think he'd always been quite shy and reserved, and now he's just kind of bearing his soul, as it were. Like, I mean, he responds to people's questions directly. It's not through I don't know, somebody else. I can't think of the words, but it's him that responds to.
Yeah, he reads them all and
he reads them all and replies to them.
Yeah, it's quite a cool way to sort of interact with your audience.
Yeah. So as a way, maybe this is. I mean, I don't know what his previous albums have like, but is he kind of bearing his soul more in this album that he's done previously?
More than so we can't comment
No.
on that, but he's
Get him
definitely, regardless, he's definitely bearing his soul for all to see. I mean, the other song in particular that gets me is there's a few, but Ghosteen Speaks is it's just the first line, and basically Ghosteen.
Now, right, what's your thoughts on?
I mean, it is
the album title Ghosteen.
Well, it seems to be a direct reference to a ghost teen, as
It's like a teenage ghost.
Yeah,
this is what I kind of took from it. Yeah, so I thought this has to be.
So I mean, the whole album. I mean, it's not just like the whole album's about his dead son.
No,
but there are bits of it come through, especially Ghosteen Speaks. The first line of that is just, "I am beside you, look for me." This father and his little dead son is saying, "I'm here, I'm right next to you," and that gets me. As soon as I hear that, it's a hard one to hold back. Even though I'm not a father or anything like that. It's just that kind of the thought of a family member who's passed, and the idea of them sort of watching you or whatever it's just really powerful. Especially, and Nick Cave's voice has got a lot to do with it. He's just got a very powerful voice.
Gravitas.
It's a sort of voice that makes you stop and listen, I think.
I was going to say, it's a commanding voice, isn't
absolutely.
it? Yeah,
commanding is the right word. And that whole song is almost like, I don't know, it feels a bit like, you talk about, the ghost says, "All my friends are gathered here," so it's almost like the funeral. And, the ghost teen is there watching everything happen as it goes along. It's just a heartbreaking song. But, it's a tough one to get through. But it's not a tough one to get through, but there are those there's that, if you get past that first moment, that's like for me that's a very affecting image that it conjures just with a few simple words and a song title.
I found Sun Forest as well to be a bit like that. I thought there was a wee bit of a tonal change on a kind of Sun Forest from the kind of previous tracks. Again, as I said earlier on, you've kind of got that looping electronic music from earlier on, some sparse piano accompaniment. Nick, he doesn't actually come in till about the kind of 2:37 mark. I just, the kind of lyrical content, again, I found it quite affecting. Hear Nick Cave singing, "A spiral of children climb up to the sun, waving goodbye to you and goodbye to me. As the past goes away, the future begins. I say goodbye to all that." Yeah, I found it quite affecting. I was wondering I wonder whether there's maybe there's obviously a theme, but I wonder if there is a kind of narrative that runs throughout the tracks that I'm maybe not intelligent enough to kind of pick up on.
I mean, it's really difficult to wrap your head around some of the lyrics on here, and I was kind of wondering if this the spiral with children going up to the sun is like the sort of stairway to heaven kind of
That's
thing.
what my interpretation of it was.
Yeah, so there's loads of kind of religious references and things on here. But I think just even the name Sun Forest and the actual sort of musical soundscape that it creates, it's like when you listen to it, it sounds like you're in a dark forest with like chinks of light coming through the foliage. It's just the way that is, they use all the different sounds to create that that image in your mind is really impressive.
I'd like the Galleon Ship I mentioned as well. I really enjoyed Galleon Ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I only mentioned it because it's kind of in between kind of Ghosteen and Sun Forest.
Yeah, I didn't really have a clue what Galleon Ship was on about, but it's
I
like I really like it as a song.
Galleon Ship, I obviously just think of like a pirates
Yeah,
Galleon Ship, like a ship of that nature. However, I think it kind of talks about kind of his galleon ship will fly and fly, so it's talking about this ship effectively taken up into the air. I assume that's what I got from it.
But what does that mean?
I know.
I don't know. I don't think it's worth spending too much time trying to figure out. But every track on the album is great. I think you have to say. I don't know if it's like mention this double album thing. And it doesn't necessarily feel like a double album.
I didn't consume it as a double album because I listened to it on Spotify.
Exactly.
So it was,
I mean, I guess if you had like it on CD or maybe vinyl, there would be
there'd be a
specific
distinct difference.
discs. Maybe not so much in vinyl because you have to turn it over and then it'll be split between discs on CD definitely. Or you'd think there'd be some kind of distinction to mark it out as a double album, but certainly listening to it on a streaming service, it's just one big thing.
Yeah.
But so it doesn't feel like there's a break. I got confused with the track numbers, and actually Ghosteen, which is track 9, I thought it was track 8, and I was like, oh, this is a massive 12-minute track that kind of closes out the first part, but it's actually the first track of part 2, so that was kind of, I was like, oh, this is a pretty epic way to end the first thing, but it's actually not. It's an epic way to start the second one, and that's another heartbreaking song. It's got probably the biggest moment of the album on it, which is I said it's 12 minutes, and it's the first 4 minutes are just instrumental, and then you got about a minute of Nick Cave sort of sorrowful vocals, and then you get to the 5th minute, and there's this huge chorus where he says, Ghosteen dances in my head, slowly twirling all around, glowing circle in my hand, dancing all around, and it's so evocative, and you get that image in your mind, and it's just the melody and the sort of grandeur and all of that sort of culminative moment on that song, and it's absolutely wonderful. It's it's hard. I think I've been gushing so much about this album, but it really is a huge moment on an album of really emotional moments, and that's one of the best moments on the album for me is that chorus, if you can call it a chorus, in a 12-minute song after almost half the song is gone.
Instrumentally.
Yeah, but and it brings forth that idea of if you lose a family member, maybe specifically a child, that it's impossible to forget about them. They're forever spinning in your head. So yeah, it's another really powerful moment on an album of really powerful moments. Is there any other things you want to talk about?
The final track, I enjoyed the final track, Hollywood. However, I did feel as if it was, I don't want to say misplaced, because I genuinely don't have any bad things to say about this album, to be honest. I don't know if it's maybe the best outros. I don't know. I think it's the fact that it's 14 minutes long, and it's quite. It's quite like simple. Listening to a movie, isn't it? So one of the lyrics is like, the boy with the bad face came up to the window, and that's part of the reason that it's so good, is because it's just got these mad lyrics, like, and there's he's talking about buying a house in the hills, and he's move in, he buys a gun, and there's this cougar that roams these parts with a terrible engine of wrath for a heart. Oh,
and
it's great lyric, man.
It's just the way, it's just the way he delivers lines like that, and I mean, that's a genius line as well.
Yeah,
a terrible engine of wrath for a heart. It tells you all you need to know so quickly, and but it's just got this really simple. I think it's like a double bass, like really slowly plucked, or maybe. It's some kind of really deep string instrument that goes on, and it's very simple, and it goes on like that for most of the song, just with his kind of bizarre lyrics, and sort of there is a story, but it's hard to kind of understand really what it's all about. But then the final kind of 5 minutes or so is basically just the retelling of a Buddhist tale.
Yeah, with the baby.
Yeah, so it's Kisa, we'll say Kisa, the story of this woman whose baby dies, and then she goes to her villagers and says, "Oh, my baby's sick, you have to help me." And they say, "No, your baby's dead, you must go bury your baby." So rather than doing that, she goes to see Buddha and says, "My baby's sick, please help my baby." And Buddha says, "If you collect a mustard seed from every house in the village where no family member has died, then I will save your child." So she goes off and she goes around all the houses and can't collect a single mustard seed because, of course, every family has had a bereavement, and it's just the moral of the story is that everyone dies, everyone has to deal with death and grief, and you're not alone, and you should potentially find peace in that, which is essentially what the album is about. It's about all of those things, and then in the long run trying to find peace with that, really.
Peace will come.
So I suppose if you look at it that way, it's quite a fitting ending, but it is a very, very long song, and very sparse, so I can see why it maybe feels like less impactful, I suppose. Yeah, I don't have any more to say about it. I don't think.
How would you rate it? I've already given my rating.
I can't give it anything less than a 10 out of 10, Grant.
Is this the...
It's essentially it's a masterpiece, Grant.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that's too bold a statement either, to be honest. It's, bold a statement's not the right word to use, but yeah, it's not an over-exaggeration, let's just say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't say that lightly.
Have we rated any other albums 10 out of 10? Black Futures?
Yeah,
maybe?
I give Black Futures a 10. We give Viagra Boys a 10 as well.
Did we?
So this is a different kind of 10.
This is a very different type of 10. Well, there's, yeah.
Because
different. It's a 10 for different reasons.
Exactly. Black Futures and Viagra Boys are probably 10s on like sort of pure enjoyment.
Where this is an experience, like you said. I think that's a very apt description of that.
Yeah, this is a 10 for... It's like a very capable musician or group of musicians creating something beautiful and poignant. It's not just an album you put on and be like, oh yeah, that's a banger.
Aye, turn that up, son.
Exactly.
You're not gonna. Well, I don't know. Maybe in some instances.
You're not gonna put any track from this album on at a party.
It's not your average Friday night listening, is it really?
And
I suppose it depends what you do your Friday night.
Yeah, this is more. This is an album you sit and enjoy on your own. I would say.
Aye.
I think it'd be a difficult listening experience in a group of people. If you had a group of people all like, imagine. I'm just thinking of like when albums get released to the media, like the Tool, Tool released an album this year, and they had like listening parties with media. And so I imagine like that would be a weird experience in itself with that sort of type of band. But if they had the same kind of thing for this album, the media go in and they get to hear the album first, but in a big room, that would be a very strange scene.
It's interesting that because I was speaking to Boff obviously about the album, and he's going to see them next year. He loves this album, really quite enjoyed it, but he did say, I really hope they don't play anything from the new album, because I don't know how he'd be able to take that as his words. Just imagine a room, well, I don't know where he's playing, but see, you're gonna have at least upwards of 100 people, more than that.
Yeah.
Greeting.
And it's I guess it's just being a professional musician, but you wonder how some of these songs he makes it through. And I mean, this is a recorded album, but I wonder sort of how many takes it took, or whether he's just maybe being a professional musician, you're used to
being able to detach yourself
that
from
kind
the
of
emotional.
Exactly, that kind of thing where where there are tons of takes to get it right, or how would it work in a live setting with, I mean, it's always different in being in a live environment and listening to music, and how would the sort of energy in that room come together. Be an interesting one. But like you say, if any of these songs get played, yeah, there won't be a dry eye in the house.
Yeah.
Okay, I think
Yeah, I don't think
there's much more.
Well, there's probably plenty, but I think for just now, yeah, that's us.
Yeah,
There's nothing else I wish to say about it.
No, so I think the point is, go and listen to Ghosteen by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds if you want to have a wee cry. Not really for that reason, just if you
want a wee bit of an emotional release.
If you just want to have a listen to
if you want to feel something.
If you want to
feel something. Well, it's not an album you're going to... It's not like Viagra Boys, like you mentioned earlier on, that, you know, you can dance and jump about to.
If you want to have an experience...
It's not finished!
It's not for everyone, because...
It's finished!
People just don't have that with music.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm rating this album 10 out of 10. Love it. I think it's a masterpiece, as we kind of both said. But, you know, if you'd given me this album 10 years ago, I would have shut it off immediately.
Yeah, you might just disregarded it as boring. Like, potentially. Yeah. I mean, I know I probably would have.
I just like wouldn't have chimed into it at all.
Cool, okay. Well, that's Ghosteen by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
I lay in the forest amongst the butterflies and the fireflies and the burning horses and the flaming trees. I am beside you. Ghosteen dances in my head.
I think that's us.
That's us. New podcast in the new year. Not new podcast. New episode in the new year.
Yeah, there'll be a new episode in the new year, mid-January probably.
You're going to say Merry Christmas and all that?
Okay. I might. But I'll do it. I can't be arsed right now. I can't be arsed wishing people merriness.
I think you should just end it with that.
Thank you to everyone for listening to episode 4 of the Scratch Cast. Of course, I'm going to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Only if you celebrate those holidays, of course. So enjoy whatever you're doing, whether it's celebrating with friends and family or just going about your daily business. Hopefully we shall see you in the new year for episode 5. In the meantime, remember we have a huge playlist of all our favourite alternative tracks from November this year, so go and check that out at www.theheadscratcher.com. We also have a massive alternative Christmas playlist out there, so if you're sick of the usual Christmas songs, go and check that one out. My choice cut on there is Sad Christmas Clown. That'll give you an idea of the sort of thing to expect when you put that one on at your family Christmas dinner. Remember, you can follow us over at Facebook at The Head Scratcher, on Twitter at ScratcherHead, and of course over at the website as already mentioned. Big thanks to Grant as always for joining me on the last episode, and you'll hear more of us in the new year.
It's not finished! It's finished!